Hello, I am coming to you on February 12th, 2026. I am 12 days postpartum and I'm finally giving you guys my third trimester recap. This video and the nursery transformation video and my what's in my hospital bag video were all supposed to be filmed. I was just gonna filmed and edited and ready to go when I was still pregnant. I had this big idea. The weekend of my 38th week, I would film all three of those videos and then over time just start to edit them and try to get them edited as soon as possible because I could have my baby anytime in the next 2 weeks after that weekend. And then on the Friday, I went to a doctor's appointment and they were like, head to labor and delivery. Obviously there goes those plans. So I've been filming those 3 videos, including this one, all postpartum, and I've been editing them and it's been slow going, but this is the last video that I wanted to film while I was pregnant that I didn't get the chance to. And then from there, my videos can become more current. The video you guys are seeing after this one is my nursery transformation and my baby name reveal video, and then the one after that is my labor and delivery vlog, which I haven't edited yet, and I'm so excited to edit it and post it because I think it's going to be really special. And I didn't have a lot of footage the first time around with my first daughter, and I was so sad that I didn't film more, but I think I filmed a good amount this time. Honestly, it's kind of a blur, but I remember filming more than I did with my first, but here we are. So the lighting in this room is not the best for filming. Obviously, I'm backlit, and the only light I have is a ring light, and it's dark out. It is literally nighttime, but I could have either put off making this video and possibly have been another few days or a week before I was able to film it, or I could have seized the moment where my husband was available to hang out with the baby and watch the toddler while she played. And so I said, you know what, the lighting's not going to be amazing, but I'm going to make the best of it. So anyway, welcome to this third trimester recap video. I'm officially in the 4th trimester, which if you've never heard of that, this is basically just postpartum. It's the 3 months after having a baby. And oh boy, it is a tough one. Again, that's not what this video is about. This video is about my 3rd trimester. I started writing down all of my symptoms for the 3rd trimester by week. So I'm just gonna go over each week and how I felt. For some reason, I didn't start writing my symptoms until my 29th week. So we're starting with 29 weeks. We're working all the way up to 38 weeks. And then I will leave you guys off at the day I gave birth. And then we'll save the rest of that story for the labor and delivery vlog. So let's get into my 3rd trimester symptoms and things that happened over the 3rd trimester. 29 weeks. So at 29 weeks, I was still having some back pain, lower back pain. Honestly, the back pain this pregnancy was really just when I pushed myself too hard. And I really did push myself too hard physically, basically this whole pregnancy, because I have a toddler and I can't just be waiting around for things to get done. So yeah, a lot of that was just because I was probably doing a lot more activity than I should have been doing. So I had back pain at 29 weeks. Also, this was the beginning of my carpal tunnel journey, which has not ended. Almost 2 weeks postpartum. I'm still dealing with it. I started to notice my fingers were more swollen in the morning, more swollen than usual. My fingers always get a little bit more swollen in the morning, even pre-pregnancy. But I was noticing that they were not getting excessively swollen, but just more than usual. And I was waking up with them asleep, as if I fell asleep weird on my arm, but it was both arms every day, but it was worse on this arm because I slept on my right side. So this one was under me. And of course, I'm right-handed, so this one being tingly and feeling like it was asleep was not the best. So that was the start of my carpal tunnel. I don't think I put 2 and 2 together that it was carpal tunnel at this point, but it would go away after the first few hours of the day. As time goes on, it never went away, and we'll get to that. The next thing I started having Braxton Hicks at 29 weeks, which is basically just the practice contractions. You feel your stomach tightening a lot. And that started around Thanksgiving. I remember the first day that it was so bad. It was Thanksgiving Day and I was hosting and I was just doing, again, a lot of activity. I was doing a lot more than I probably should have been doing, not drinking enough water. And I just felt, I had Braxton Hicks basically the whole day. I think I said it in one of my vlogs, but the entire day it was just one large Braxton Hicks because my stomach was tight the entire day. And then also in my 29 weeks, I found out about my heart murmur, and it turns out, yes, I have a heart murmur, but it was pregnancy induced because of the increase in blood flow, Now that I am not pregnant, it should be gone. And I haven't felt heart palpitations or anything like that since having her, so I do think it is gone. And then at 30 weeks, at my doctor, they test your iron at 30 weeks to see what it looks like before delivery. I was slightly below normal. I think normal is 12 and above, and my hemoglobin was 11.9. So my doctor put me on an iron supplement that I was not so good at taking, honestly, because it was so gross and it would make me vomit. But yeah, everything turned out to be okay with that. And then at 31 weeks, I started having some cramping alongside of the Braxton Hicks. So it was like, it felt like mild period cramps, and I hadn't experienced that with my first daughter, so I was like, am I going into preterm labor? But apparently, again, it can happen more with second pregnancies, and also if you are doing too much and not resting enough, which has just been the motto, I guess, for my pregnancy and postpartum. I'm just doing more than I should physically. And so I started having some cramping, nothing concerning. The doctor was not concerned at all. He just said, when that happens, try to relax, try to sit down and have some water. Same with the Braxton Hicks. He said that can help just relax, hydrate. Again, easier said than done. Easier said than done, but anyway, yeah, I started having some cramping. And then at 32 weeks, I started having a shooting pain between my legs randomly, which I'm now presuming was lightning crotch, which is, I don't know the official term for it, but basically it's just like when your baby's beginning to drop, and just like when your baby's getting bigger throughout the third trimester, and like as they get like lower in your pelvis, you'll just get more shooting pains from all of the pressure in your pelvis. And this is a bigger baby this time around. This baby was born almost 1.5 pounds heavier than my firstborn. She was a lot heavier to carry, and I was starting to feel those like lightning crotch pains, and they hurt. And they kind of happened on and off for the rest of my pregnancy, but starting at 32 weeks. And I started leaking colostrum, which with my first TMI, I guess, I noticed crusties around like 36 weeks. I was like, oh my gosh, I have like little crusties. That probably means I'm starting to produce colostrum. And this time it was just like fully like I was leaking colostrum. So I think that's because I'm a second time mom who breastfed the first time. So my milk production was already like revving ready to go. And in postpartum, with my breastfeeding journey so far, I have definitely noticed that things are just coming easier to me naturally. My body knows what it's doing, and I know what I'm doing. Then we're skipping ahead to 34 weeks. Not a lot happened at 34 weeks. I went into a normal doctor's appointment, and the doctor weighed me, did the blood pressure, everything looked good. And then he was like, oh, we forgot to listen to the baby's heartbeat. That's the best part of the appointment. And usually these appointments that are just so fast and routine. So he listened to the baby's heartbeat, and it was measuring at 108, which I have a vlog about this. But basically you want the baby's heart rate to be between 110 and I think it's 180 or 170. You want it to be in that range. That's the normal range. And the baby's was literally 2 beats below normal. So I got sent to labor and delivery. The long story short of it all, at labor and delivery, while she was on the monitors, the doctor said that she was looking textbook perfect. Everything looked great. Her heartbeat stayed around the 150 range. And her guess was that at the doctor, they were picking up both my heartbeat and the baby's heartbeat, and it was giving the average of the two, which I didn't know was a thing that could happen, but apparently it could. And when they were getting me set up on the monitors at labor and delivery, they kept on accidentally picking up my heartbeat, because I guess whatever picks up the heartbeat on your stomach was really close to where they were picking up the baby's heartbeat. So there you go. So I got sent home, thankfully, but in my vlog from around that time I talk about this, I started feeling sick on the way home. I figured it was just because I was pregnant and hadn't eaten basically since the morning, and it was like 8 p.m. As the drive gone on, which I drove myself to labor delivery because my husband was home with our toddler, pulled into the driveway, I was like, oh, I'm gonna literally vomit in our brand new car. And I put the car in park, swung open the door, vomited all over the driveway. I go more into detail about that in the vlog that I filmed right after that happened. But yeah, it turned out to be the stomach flu. So I got the stomach flu, went to labor and delivery, had no idea I had the stomach flu yet, and then on the way home started to feel like I was sick. And then at 35 weeks, I started having some cramping pretty consistently a few nights in a row, and I think it was just, again, my body telling me to slow down and relax, because we were doing a lot of physical stuff around the house and to get the nursery ready, and we were in crunch time before having the baby, and a lot of things had to get done. And I think my body was just like, whoa, please slow down. And so I started having cramping at night after these full days of not relaxing and being active, or just being really busy with work and not being able to like hydrate and take care of myself. I was worried that I was going into early labor a few times during 35 weeks. It happened like 3 nights in a row, and then it stopped, thankfully. And again, I know lots of Braxton Hicks, and it was getting to the point around this time where it was like, Braxton Hicks are never comfortable, like they never feel good, but it was getting to the point where I was like, actually these like are making me very uncomfortable. And anytime I would like walk more than a minute at a time, I would start to have Braxton Hicks. And then at 36 weeks, I went to a routine doctor's appointment and my blood pressure was elevated. 150 over, I want to say 80s range. And the doctors were like, uh-oh, we don't like this. And then there was trace amounts of protein in my urine, which can be normal, but with the high blood pressure and being in the 3rd trimester, they were like, we don't love this. But by the end of the appointment, it went down to the normal like 120s over 70s range. So they let me go home without having to go in to get checked. But I think at this point, my blood pressure was just easily raised. Like I have white coat syndrome, so it just in like the high normal range. In my last pregnancy and this one, around 36-ish weeks, my blood pressure would just get like moderately high anytime I was doing any kind of activity, and I could like feel it happening. Like if I was, again, doing too much around the house, I could feel like, I think my blood pressure is getting a little high. Or if I was walking from my car to my OB's office, I could feel like my blood pressure was getting higher, and like I would hope that they wouldn't call me back right away so that I could like sit in the waiting room and relax for a little bit. Basically what I'm trying to say is I think my blood pressure was just more easily raised starting at around 36 weeks, and I don't know if that's normal and can just be written off as like, oh, it comes back down so it's fine, or if it's like, hey, it's still not good that it's getting this high this easily, even if it does come back down. I'm not a doc. I have like literally, I have no medical experience whatsoever. You guys let me know if that's normal, like if it's normal for as long as it comes back down, if it's okay. Like I really don't know, but it came back down at my 36-week appointment after we were done with the appointment, and they let me go home. Also at that appointment, they did a cervical check. I was not dilated. My cervix was softening, but it was still thick. And he also told me that if I start having contractions every 4 to 5 minutes, lasting about a minute for 1 hour, to come in. And then I did mention, like, I live 30 minutes from the hospital. He was like, okay, so then maybe at like 45 minutes, and if they're 5 minutes apart. So like 5-1-45 instead of 4-1-1, which I know is like the general rule, which I actually know that that rule of thumb for like going into the hospital is also not loved by all providers, because, you know, it could mean that it's too late and it's more about the intensity of the contractions is what I've heard. But anyway, I ended up being induced, so I never got to that point. The other thing is my heartburn returned a little bit, not as bad as it was in the 2nd trimester, but did come back, as well as my morning nausea. Oh, hold on a second. I forgot to mention, at my 28-week appointment, I got the Tdap and the Rogam shot because I'm Rh negative. My camera died. Yes, so, and then at my 32-week appointment, I got the RSV shot. I just wanted to mention those things. Okay, anyway, back to 37 weeks. Came in for my 37-week appointment, and my BP was slightly elevated again, and I think it was like high 140s over 80s. So not as bad as the previous week, but still they were like, hey, it's elevated again. What's going on? But by the end of the appointment, it did go back down again to like, I think it was like the low 120s over the low 70s. So it did go down like a good amount. And so they were like, okay, like we don't love that this keeps happening. So I was like, hey, I have a blood pressure machine at home. Do you want me to start taking it at home? So they had me begin monitoring myself, my blood pressure at home between 37 weeks and 38 weeks. And every time I would take it at home, my doctor was like, take it when you're relaxed. You've been sitting for at least 5 minutes. So I did, and every time my readings were very normal. It was very much like the 110s over the 70s. It was the 120s over the 70s. They were all coming back as normal, good numbers. But when I go to the doctor, I do have like that white coat syndrome where my blood pressure is just a little bit higher. I'm a little bit more anxious, and because I'm nervous about the blood pressure results at the doctors, I think that plays into it, as well as what I mentioned earlier, where I think my blood pressure just rises so much easier in pregnancy, and I don't know if that's normal or not. And if all that matters is that it comes back down, I don't know. But that's what ended up happening. But my blood pressure was all super normal at home. I started experiencing headaches, and that made me nervous because of the blood pressure. But it wasn't like all the time. It was like a few headaches sprinkled into the 37-week timeline. And every time I would get a headache, I would take Tylenol, it would go away. My blood pressure would be normal during these headaches, but it still stunk that it was happening. Again, looking back, I think it was not properly hydrating myself and not eating what I should have been eating. I was just like grabbing little snacks throughout the day rather than having good nutritious meals because I was busy. I was 37 weeks pregnant. I was still working. I have a toddler. It was rough. It is rough. I think that's motherhood for you, unfortunately. Anyway, the other thing I mentioned, I was super tired during 37 weeks. I stopped taking daily naps after work around like halfway through my second trimester, and then like you're tired during pregnancy, especially if you have a toddler as well or other kids. But like you get through every day and then you just crash at like 8 p.m. as soon as your kids go to bed. But for me, around 37 weeks, I started to have to take those after work naps again, like every day. Because I just was not able to keep open my eyes, and something I was just like never awake enough. Also, my carpal tunnel was so bad this week. I woke up in pain. I was all day, every day, not being able to feel my fingertips, my hands, especially my right hand, my dominant hand, feeling asleep, like not being able to like do this with my fingers. I still like, I'm better at it, honestly, but my fingertips down to like, my fingertips are basically like numb. They feel like they're asleep on both hands. It's worse on the right hand. And like it stops like right at the bottom of my fingers. And I thought it was supposed to go away with postpartum, but it still hasn't. But it's been better. But I'm still waiting for it to go away completely. Anywho, and then the other thing was I started experiencing restless legs, which I had never experienced, and it was awful. It was so horrible. Luckily, like I would be so tired at the end of the day when I would start to experience it. It wasn't for a long period of time because I would end up just falling asleep. But oh Lord, I hated that. And also around this time, daughter's kicks started to really hurt and like make me uncomfortable. It kicked me like right up in the ribs and it drove me nuts. And like as happy as I am to feel her kicks and to feel her inside of me, it was like, okay, can you relax a little bit? Because she was a bigger baby than my first daughter. So the kicks were never super painful for me. And even then, like, I just feel like they never reached me right below the rib. I just felt so uncomfortable and huge at this point. I was the biggest I'd ever been. And I had my daughter at 37 weeks and 1 day, my first daughter. And so starting 37 weeks and 2 days, it was the most pregnant I'd ever been. So I just was hugely pregnant. I was the most pregnant I've ever been. I also was pregnant with a bigger baby, so I was just so uncomfortable. Everything was just like sitting, laying down, any kind of movement. I was so uncomfortable. I felt like I had a bowling ball attached to my stomach, and that's because I basically did. But I also had my last growth scan at 37 weeks, and they found that there was still no growth restriction. So at 34 weeks, I actually didn't mention this, but at 34 weeks, I had a growth scan and they found that she was no longer growth restricted. She was actually measuring in the 23rd percentile. And then at my 37-week growth scan, which was my last growth scan, they found that she was in the 19th percentile, so still not growth restricted, and she was measuring 6 pounds 3 ounces already. My oldest daughter was born at 37 weeks and 1 day at 4 pounds 15 ounces. This baby was measuring 6 pounds 3 ounces at 37 weeks and 4 days. And this is a new experience for my body, and like I said, it hurt and it did not feel great, but I was very happy to be having a non-low birth weight baby. Like, what a concept. And also the idea of being able to skip preemie clothes and preemie sizes and all of that, like this was a completely new territory for me. It also meant that I could go into labor naturally and that growth restriction would not play a part in me being able to go into labor naturally as my body wants it to happen, which was great until we hit 38 weeks. Around 38 weeks, we had some car trouble. So I had to cancel my appointment and reschedule it for later in the week. My appointment was initially on a Tuesday. I had to reschedule it for that Friday when I was 38 weeks and 4 days. Again, like I said, my blood pressure had been measuring perfectly normal at home. I went in for my 38-week appointment and my blood pressure was in the 150s over 80s. And then after the appointment was over, they took it one more time and it was still in the 150s over 80s and it did not go back down, and I still had trace protein in my urine. Now they said that that could be normal, like I said, but because of the two things, they didn't love it and they wanted to send me for more testing and monitoring at labor and delivery. So they sent me to labor and delivery. And I was like, what are the odds that this turns into an induction? And my doctor said 50-50. So I was like, should I tell my husband to come? Do I tell my mom to come and watch our older daughter? And he was like, you can stop home if you want to. So I took that as, and here's the thing, I live about 25 minutes from my doctor, and then I live 30 minutes from the hospital. So I would have to drive 25 minutes home, finish packing all of my stuff, load it all into the car, and then my husband and I would have to drive 30 minutes to the hospital. So we probably wouldn't make it to the hospital for an hour and a half to 2 hours after he called ahead to have me go to labor and delivery. So it would be a while, but I just had this feeling that that is what we needed to do. And he said I could stop home. The doctor was like, if you have to stop home, do it. Do I think he realized how long stopping home would delay me going to labor and delivery? Maybe not, but no one ever said anything. So I drove home. I called my husband and my mom on the way home and I said, hey, Mom, you got to come to the house right now. She had already left some stuff at our house just in case I randomly went into labor. It's a 50-50 chance I'm going to get induced today. I have to go in labor and delivery because of my blood pressure. And my mom left work immediately. Our house is about an hour drive from her work. So I had 25 minutes to drive home, and then we had to pack everything up. Zach had to pack a lot of his stuff up and get himself ready for the day. He was still working when I got home. I was like, you should have been like packing your stuff and getting ready to leave. Anyway, I talk about all of that in the labor and delivery vlog. Packed up all the last minute things, did some last minute cleaning because of course our house was a mess and we were planning on cleaning the day after, which was a Saturday, but we never made it that far. So we packed up, my mom got there, we packed up the car, we went to labor and delivery, and lo and behold, we got to labor and delivery. We didn't bring any of our clothes in. We just brought I brought my purse and my water. And we got up into labor and delivery to be monitored. And as they're weighing me, about to get me into a room to be monitored in, one of the triage rooms, another nurse comes in and goes, what are you guys doing in here? This is they're an induction. And my husband and I just looked at each other like, what? And she goes, you're Victoria Lahr, sent here by Dr. Fill in the blank. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, you guys are here for an induction. Did your doctor not tell you that? We were like, no. And I was like, he said it was a 50-50 chance if I was getting induced. And she was like, well, he put you in for an induction, so we were like, oh, okay. So they walked us over into a labor and delivery room. And my husband went to the car to get all of our bags. Thank God we packed everything up and got our bags ready and brought it with us. And thank God we told my mom to come down and come watch Addie because I ended up being induced at 38 weeks and 4 days. And I had her at 38 weeks and 5 days. And I will get into that whole entire story in my labor and delivery vlog. But that is the end of my second pregnancy recap. That is the end of my second pregnancy story. You guys will see the labor and delivery video and the story of all of that and how that went down. Subscribe and come back for the next few videos and follow along into this next chapter of my life. Goodbye.